Good morning. I'll call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. All three commissioners are present. Would Commissioner Lee Gross lead us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I move that we approve the minutes of October 14th, 2013.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any changes, additions, deletions, comments? Call for the question. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. No public comment.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the notice agenda. There's one item, Resolution 13-494.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Glenn Carter.
Good morning, Glenn Carter from the Prosecutor's Office. Item number 1 is notice of hearing on a proposed business license ordinance that implements the State Liquor Board rules with respect to the growing, processing, and distribution of marijuana. It provides a summary of the proposed ordinance, which is an ordinance that consists of 4 sections, one that states the scope and purpose, another that states that a business license shall be required for growing, processing, or distributing marijuana, a third that states the requirements for that business license, and then the fourth that describes the penalties for failure to comply. The proposed notice date is the 4th of November, and it'll be here in this hearing room.
Any questions? I'll call for the vote for the notice agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Notice agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, items 2 through 8, 13-495 through 501.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded.
Item number 2, Resolution 13-495 is the approval of warrants and claims against the county. There is one special purpose warrant in the amount of $37,079.47. There are 245 regular warrants in the amount of $1,521,648.74 for a total payment against the county in the amount of $1,558,728.21. In addition, there are 249 payroll warrants dated October 18, 2013 in the amount of $228,748.
Three.
You can. Item number 2, resolution number 13496, approving electronic signatures on resolution, ordinances, and contracts passed by the Lewis County Board of County Commissioners. Our IT department has been working on an electronic agenda process for the past couple years, and this is going to allow commissioners, our prosecutor, our directors to sign resolutions and contracts and miscellaneous things electronically. This is the first step in the process. Once this is approved by the board, then we'll figure out what process we'll do to get those signatures on those documents for the board.
Thank you.
So this isn't something that we have to sign in order to find out what's in it?
No, it's not like Obamacare.
And I think this is item 3 versus 2 on our agenda.
It is item
I'll
3.
take
Yep.
that. This is a grant to the city of Morton, who's applied for $40,000 in rural economic development funds. City of Morton is having some major issues with their water treatment facility, and this is the first step in a part of a $15 million project, from what I understand, to renovate their wastewater treatment plant. This particular project is just to replace some lines to prevent seepage into their sewer system from groundwater. And so this movement is to approve the $40,000 grant of 0.09 or Economic Development Distressed Counties Fund to the city of Morton.
The updated travel policy is
Is that the Elaine?
Delane, I was looking for Archie.
You're a good substitute.
I'm here to propose the
Would you pull down the microphone?
approving an updated Lewis County travel and reimbursement policy. The last revision to the Lewis County travel policy was made in June of 2006. This revision is to address issues that have arisen over the course of time. So a summary of changes are as follows. Updated the policy to be consistent with the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA. Removed the 75% first and last day rule. Created a per meal, per diem rule. Clarified examples for better understanding of travel time. Clarified privately owned vehicle section. Clarified family member travel in accordance with the risk policy. Created a 10-hour rule. Added incidental expense language, extended stay language, and voluntary extended stay language.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Michael Strozik, Director of Central Services. Item number 6 on your consent agenda is Resolution number 13-499. It's a bid award for the Fair Maintenance Shop Replacement Project. Part of me is pretty excited to be before you. This has been an ongoing project since the December of 2007 floods. The maintenance shop at the Southwest Washington Fair is located on the southwest portion of the property, which is the lowest point of the property. And during the 2007 flood, we had about 14 feet of water go through that shop and totally destroy it. We rehabbed it the best we can to keep it going until we could work out an agreement not only with the Washington County's risk pool for replacement, but also with the city of Centralia, because we wanted to relocate it and get it as high as we can on the fair property. This bid award would allow us to do that. We will be relocating the maintenance shop up into the north end of the property, gaining approximately 4 feet in natural elevation, and we're going to put another 4 feet of fill. Raising the maintenance shop about 8 feet higher than it currently is. In addition, due to the city regulations, we will also build the shop as flood resistant. This is a 40 by 60 maintenance shop. This is the second bid. The first bid went out and it spec'd either a framed in building or a pole barn building. When we got in and the company that was low bid started doing some of the surveying for the pole barn, they found that the soil was less than adequate for a pole barn. So we did some extensive soil testing, and in fairness to all the bidders, we felt it was best to put it out and take out the pole barn building aspect. So the bid before you is for either a stick or metal frame building, 40 by 60 feet, and we had 8 bids that were submitted and open. A low bid of $309,500 all the way up to a high bid of $499,715. This bid award, after we've done our due diligence and checked all the references, would award the bid to DB&R Incorporated of Chehalis in the amount of $309,500 for the construction of the new maintenance shop. And Washington County's insurance, Mr. Steve Larkin specifically, is on board with all this. We've submitted documents back and forth, and they've reviewed the plans and everything.
Any questions?
Thank you.
High time.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Elsey, Lewis County Public Works Director, speaking to item number 7 on your agenda. That's resolution number 13-500, approving an administrative agreement for the acquisition of additional right-of-way for Looting House Bridge and lease agreement with Lance and Joanne Rosinski. This will be the final piece in the puzzle of acquiring right-of-way for the replacement of the Looting House Bridge. This is an administrative settlement, which means that we are paying a different amount than the appraised value for this particular property. In this property, the owners would be eligible for relocation allowances because they are having to move from their home. We're purchasing the 5.07 acres of property. Rather than claim those relocation allowances, this property owner prefers that their loans be paid off in full, that they be allowed to live in the property until such time as the property is needed, and that they have salvage rights to the property. Our real estate group has looked at this. I've looked at this, and we believe this would be a reasonable accommodation, and we would recommend that we sign the resolution and the agreement with the Rosinskis for this administrative offer.
Any questions? Thank you, Tim. Danette?
Danette York, Director of Public Health and Social Services, speaking to item number 8, resolution number 13-501, approving a contract agreement number 1, that should be contract amendment number 1, with the Lewis County Shelter Program. This is the contract that the shelter was awarded with the 0.1% mental health, chemical dependency, and therapeutic court tax money. And we have extended this contract through December 31st of 2013 and added $14,167 in funding. This extension was simply to get all the contracts onto a calendar year basis. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the consent agenda? Comments? I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent is approved. The next step will be a public hearing. This is broken down into 4 parts. It starts out with a staff report. After the staff report, there will be a question and answer period. The board can ask questions, and then the audience can ask questions. Please keep your statements or your comments until the public testimony part. But the first part of this, after the staff report, is actually you can ask questions. We will then close the question and answer period, opening the hearing for public testimony. After public testimony, we will then consider the issue before us and consider the resolution that has been proposed. So we will start now with the Chief Civil Deputy, Glenn Carter. Glenn?
Yes, thank you very much. I am here in capacity as staff and not as a lawyer, so I will try not to speak as a lawyer, but I apologize if there's a little bit of legalism in what I say. We're here on behalf of staff to recommend approval of the proposed transfer of the county's interest in the Centralia-Chehalis Airport, a joint venture with the city of Chehalis and also with the county. The transfer would be to the city of Chehalis, making it the sole joint venturer or sole owner of the airport. This is not the first such transfer. In 1961, the airport joint venture consisted of 3 partners, the city of Chehalis, Lewis County, and the city of Centralia. In 2004, the city of Centralia transferred its interest in the airport to Chehalis and the county, and then the city of Centralia withdrew. There were no ill effects, of course, as a result of the city of Centralia's withdrawal. There are 3 general reasons for the proposed transfer of the county's interest. First, the airport is entirely within the city of Chehalis. Some would say it is the commercial heart of the city of Chehalis, and it already is regulated by the city of Chehalis for building, land use, and other regulatory purposes. The city has a direct and immediate interest in the airport. By contrast, the county has no building, land use, zoning, or other regulatory responsibility for the airport. Second, the transfer would reduce the risk profile of Lewis County. As an owner of the airport, the county is at risk in tort, for environmental violations, and for statutory, breach of contract, and real property liabilities. Tort liabilities are generally insured. Environmental liabilities largely are not insured. Claims for breach of contract are not insured. Real estate litigation, such as frequently arises out of the leases and other real property arrangements with the big box stores and other shops, are not insured. Statutory violations, such as public disclosure violations, bidding law violations, Open Public Meeting Act violations, archaeological and historic resource violations, financial violations, and the like are not insured. Third, the transfer of the airport would reduce charges to current expense of the county. As an owner of the airport, the county incurs costs associated with the airport that are paid out of current expense and are not reimbursed. For example, some of the administrative and legal costs associated with the airport on airport matters are paid out of current expense. The county's withdrawal as a joint venturer from the airport should not hurt the airport financially. The airport is very successful. It's been successful for a number of decades. From all the reports we receive from the airport and from the state auditor's office, the airport is self-sufficient, earning what it requires to operate and grow by leasing the airport grounds to Walmart, Home Depot, and others. There is no reason why this will not continue if and when the county withdraws as a joint venture partner in the airport. Neither the county nor the city of Chehalis can tap into this income stream, meaning the rental income stream, because the agreements entered into by the county and city and the Federal Aviation Administration require that income to be used and solely used for aeronautical purposes. In other words, the income stream of the airport is not available to the county or to the city and will always flow to the airport as long as the land is used for aeronautical purposes. The county's withdrawal also will not deprive the county of income. The lease payments, as I have said, go to the airport exclusively. The sales taxes are divided among the city of Chehalis, the county, and the state, and would continue to be so divided after and if the county withdraws from the joint venture. Substantial consideration would accrue to the county as a result of the proposal. In addition to reducing the county's risk profile and the costs associated with its ownership interest, the city proposes to assume the county's obligations under approximately $3.5 million in Federal Aviation Administration agreements. Those agreements were entered into by Lewis County and the FAA over more than 30 years. Those agreements continue for an additional 19 years because we signed a grant agreement this year. The city proposes to assume all of those obligations, and the FAA proposes to approve that assumption, releasing the county from those obligations. Further, the agreement proposes to grant the county a 50% interest in the proceeds of any sale of airport property for non-aeronautical purposes. In other words, if the airport were to be closed and the property sold, the proposed agreement provides for the county to be paid 50% of the proceeds of those sales after payment of expenses. I'm not suggesting that that will ever happen. Certainly it won't happen soon. In fact, I think it's highly unlikely. However, if it did, the agreement provides for a payment to the county. The reason that that doesn't take place in all likelihood is because, again, due to those Federal Aviation Administration agreements, the sale of that land for non-aeronautical purposes would trigger the requirement under those agreements that the FAA be paid back. And that's a substantial disincentive to development. Finally, the county issued approximately $3.5 million in principal and bonds in 2006 to fund airport improvements. The bond is due in June of 2017. In order to ensure the money is available to pay the balloon payment on the bond due on June 1, 2017, sufficient money to pay that balloon payment would be placed in the county treasurer's debt service fund at the time of closing, so that the money would always be there up until June 1, 2017 to pay off the balloon payment on the bond. In this context and on these proposed terms, as detailed in the resolution, staff recommends approval of the transfer of the county's interest in the airport to the city of Chehalis. Any questions?
Thank you, Glenn. Does the board have any questions?
Very well done.
Are there any questions? If anyone has any questions, please come to the mic, state your name, and you can ask any questions from the report that the staff has given. Are there any questions?
Also clarifications or that kind of thing?
Are there any questions? If there are no questions, I will close the question and answer period, and I will open the hearing for public testimony. If anybody would like to testify, please come up, sign up for the testimony. Are there names on there already?
Mr. Chairman, may I request that my comments be incorporated into the hearing portion? Thank you.
Would you like your comments and your opening comments be incorporated into the record of the hearing, Glenn?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Jim Jansen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, my name is Jim Jansen. I'm the current chairman of the Chehalis Centralia Airport Governing Board, and I'm here today to voice my opposition to the prospect of Lewis County relinquishing their interest in the airport. I don't believe that abandoning the successful jointly operated governance model that has existed for decades at the airport is in the best interest of the county and its residents. Now, prior to today, Lewis County has raised concerns in 3 areas as justification for this transfer: added liability for the county, streamlining of airport operations, and costs unrecovered by the county. The Chehalis Centralia Airport Board has illustrated that all of these concerns can be resolved. The Chehalis Centralia Airport has established procedures, policies, and insurance to reduce the liability to itself and its owners. In addition, the airport has the financial resources to aggressively defend against any liability claims. In fact, the Chehalis Centralia Airport can help the county reduce their liability and costs of operations of their other 2 airports if they continue in their ownership in this airport. As to streamlining of airport operations, it's hard for me to understand how the displacement of the present governing board by the departure of Lewis County will result in a smoother running operation. The existing board oversees all of the operations which are directed by the airport manager. The all-volunteer board has existed since 1961 and has been credited for much of the success the airport has realized. Without this structure, layers of government would be added and efficiency would be reduced, while diminishing funds available for capital investment. We do, however, believe that functionally consolidating with the county's other 2 airports would streamline things for Lewis County and would improve efficiency and reduce costs for all parties involved. And finally, to the cost recovery piece. Any expense that the county incurs on behalf of the airport should be billed to the airport. We currently utilize the financial services of the auditor's office and pay an annual assessment, which is determined by the auditor's office. We realize that the county does incur additional expenses when items such as grant documents are reviewed on behalf of the airport, and we have offered and are willing to cover those expenses. Additionally, as I have mentioned, assisting with the management and operations of the Toledo and Packwood airports would free up county funds for other projects. The transfer of the Chehalis Centralia Airport has the potential to negatively impact the economic development of all of Lewis County. The Chehalis Centralia Airport serves all corporate aviation needs for Lewis County and supports businesses such as Cardinal Glass, Millard Refrigeration, Pacific Cataract and Laser Institute, Simplot, NetJets, Modern Machinery, Port Blakely, Puget Sound Energy, Pacific Power, Weyerhaeuser, Irving Oil, Atlas Coal, Sierra Pacific, Empire Lumber, Wilbur Ellis & Company, Love's Truck Stop, TransAlta, Boeing, and many others. These businesses represent hundreds of millions of dollars of commerce in Lewis County, and there will be more businesses in the future that will need to rely on the Chehalis Centralia Airport is a conduit into this community. The airport will need to continue to provide for this type of service, and it's best that Lewis County have a representative seat during those discussions. The decision to transfer your interest in the Chehalis Centralia Airport will never be viewed as a positive step for the county. For the Chehalis Centralia Airport, or for your other two airports, it is your responsibility to make decisions that will benefit the citizens of Lewis County, and this decision clearly has no benefit for your constituents. The people of Lewis County would benefit from you retaining your ownership interest, resolving any concerns, and identifying a path forward to leverage your three airports to strongly support economic development in our whole community. The Chehalis Centralia Airport Governing Board would like to assist in charting the way forward. To that end, we suggest that the airport hire a consultant and a facilitator that is agreed to by the city, the county, and the airport to assist in formulating the mission, goals, and expectations for the airport that meets the objectives of all. With this accomplished and annual reviews in place, we can then ensure that the needs of all parties are clearly being met. We are hopeful that today's vote is not a step backwards that could potentially hinder future economic growth, but rather a step forward that could improve the quality of life for the future generations that want to call Lewis County home. And we look forward to working with you to do something great in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other testimony?
Good morning, Tony Ketchum, Mayor, City of Chehalis. I can't stand here today and tell you that this is a good idea or a bad idea. All I know is since this discussion's begun, there's been a lot of talk how the county benefits from being an owner. The county will benefit being an owner, whether they're an owner or not. They're part of the system. You also know that when there's more than one agency involved in governing something, it is much harder to get things done than just having one entity. Also, the concern that the city of Chehalis' profile is develop, and we have no plans, if we take this over, to stop any kind of development or future growth of the airport. You also know that by this resolution, it doesn't get you out of the airport. It still has to be approved by the city of Chehalis. It's just the next step. And the next step would be, if you approve this today, is for the city of Chehalis to finally do a study from A to Z to see if it's beneficial for the city to even be involved. So in order for that to happen, we do need you to accept this proposal. And I still think that no matter what happens, the airport is a great entity for the city, the county, and it always will be no matter what happens today. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments?
Good morning. My name is Dennis Dawes. I think I have a unique position here today as one of those that served on the airport board for 12 years as a representative of both the county and the city. And currently I serve as a city council person. I want it made clear that I'm not going to be speaking for the council today, because obviously the first thing is, Tony has said, first thing that needs to be done is you folks need to make your decision. Then of course, if your decision is to withdraw, then it would be up to the city to make their decision as to where they want to do that, because that's the part of the joint venture. Back in the mid-90s and early 2000s, I served on the airport board with a number of folks. I don't know how many of them on there are still on there that when I served on, but one thing that was clear to me, and the part that's a little troubling to me as a member of the council, and like I say, I'm going to only speak individually, so please understand that, is that when I was on the member of the airport board, it was very clear to me that my duty was to represent
the authority that appointed me, and that was the city of Chehalis. I did not see it was my position to get involved in the matter of the owners. This I kind of liken to owning a building that's being managed by a real estate development person, and I want to sell it, and they're telling me, no, you can't sell it, and this is why you can't sell it. This is clearly a decision that, first of all, rests in the laps of the county commissioners and could ultimately rest in the lap of the city of Chehalis, depending on how your vote goes. It does bother me that there are some folks out there that say that should this ownership occur, or transfer occur, that development would be curtailed or hurt or whatever. I kind of take offense to that because I know we have worked hard to develop a positive relationship for development in our area. And any development certainly is going to benefit the city and the county in the long run. So to say that that's going to occur is a little bit, bothers me just a little bit. I would hope that the folks that are involved in representing our interests as the appointing authorities to our membership would stand back, let the folks make their decision that need to make decisions, and then we'll go from there. Personally, I can live with it either way. The county and the city have been good partners, and if the county should decide that they want to get out of it for whatever reasons, and I understand the reasons that you've stated, and the city would decide to vote to take over sole ownership, I think that we would work. I understand how the airport works. I understand the FAA restrictions on funding. I understand that this is not a cash cow that somebody's going to rob, and that kind of has been floated around there a little bit too. Now, whether it was misconstrued or not, I don't know, but it is not a cash cow that somebody's going to be able to take. Those funds are exclusive use type funds, kind of like an enterprise funds. And I know I used to make some of those very arguments to the folks that I represented when there was times that maybe they thought those could be used for different things. So whatever decision you folks make today, I'm certainly willing to live with it. And if it turns out that you decide that you want to opt out, then I'll work together with the rest of the council and discuss it, and then we'll do what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other statements? Any other statements? Anyone on the board have a statement?
I have a question, or a statement, I guess. When I've been studying this and, you know, being new on the commission, I looked at the various factors, and the one factor I just cannot connect, and if somebody can help me with this, is how economic development would be impacted by the county no longer being part of the airport. I know the airport is very valuable. My husband, who loves airports, appreciates what happens out there. I know when I heard Cardinal Glass, Port Blakely, Pacific Power, Sierra Pacific, et cetera, I mean, the airport is really serving its mission. What I am not able to put together is how that mission, if the county was no longer involved, how economic development would not occur. Why would we be impacting that environment in Lewis County? So if anyone can share that piece for me more clearly, I'd be happy to hear it.
Please come up.
Commissioner, thank you for your question. You know, there's been all sorts of discussion about this. There's some truths out there and some mistruths out there. And there are other airports that have reverted to this model, single ownership, and we've said that funds cannot be extracted from the airport. That's not quite the case. They can be. There can be assessments. The airport can be simply absorbed as a department within the city. The city can then apply part of their overhead to the airport. The more of those funds that are drawing off the airport, the less benefit there is to the airport. When these companies come to the area looking for a place to develop, one of the things that they consider, one of the things that was key to Cardinal Glass was, is there an airport here that they can bring in the type of aircraft that they fly, typically jets? And we have one of those. It was key in their decision. Should the airport degrade, for lack of capital to continue to develop it, then we may not be able to service that type of aircraft. And that's the primary concern there, is that without the funds that we've enjoyed for the last several years to continue to enhance the airport's type of services, we think that there would be certainly a downturn in that capacity.
But, Mr. Jansen, there would certainly not be, it would not be in the city's interest to, as you say, let the airport degrade to the extent that people's interests in the county are jeopardized. I mean, that wouldn't be any more in the city's interest to let that happen than it would be the county's interest to let that happen.
I hear you and understand. All I can say to that is, as long as you have a vote, you're at the table, you can deal with those kind of issues. Once the county is out of it, they will not have a vote. And it will be entirely up to the city how this airport is operated in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Could I ask one more question? You earlier offered a facilitator to bring folks together. If this commission votes to move out of the airport, would you still be in the mood to hire a facilitator and work with the city of Chehalis, put together a strategic plan, how to work together?
Well, Commissioner, I'm afraid that if the county backs out, you won't be dealing with me anymore. I am a county representative on the board. We expect the board to be dissolved. Have no idea of the structure that the city would put in place. Should the board be retained, and I'm certainly an advocate of that, then yes, we would be happy to do that. But at that point, it will be entirely up to the city.
Right. But the offer, you think, would be probably open to the city of Chehalis if that were to occur? Absolutely.
Again, I'm a county representative, so I don't know what that governing structure will look like should the city take it over. And just one final comment. You know, if this is so bad for the county should get out of this for all the reasons stated. Why is it for the city, a much smaller entity, good for them? And I think they ought to consider that. The deep pockets are in the county, not that they should ever be accessed. But for the city to accept this, taking on all the risks that you've talked about, now we don't share in the fact that that risk is that high, that opinion. They ought to be thinking about that. If it's so bad for the county, why is it great for the city? Thank you.
If there is no further testimony, I would like to make a few comments. One is the airport is well run. It has a positive cash flow. This has a positive benefit to the city because all services, all permitting, all decisions on development inside the airport is all inside the city limits. It is to the city's benefit to have control over their jurisdiction. I see no ill effects from the city assuming sole ownership. They will not change the operations so as the customers or the citizens of Lewis County would notice any difference in operations. They're not going to change the runway, the hangars, the approaches, all that will remain the same. Services, fueling, all of that will remain the same. There is a benefit for the city to assume ownership. There is a benefit for the county to transfer that ownership. And the effect of the risk profile, if there are 3 entities and there's a problem, all 3 would be sued. There is no additional risk shifted to the city if the county pulls out. Their risk stays the same. The risk profile for the airport stays the same. So if there's no further discussion.
Just one comment. There's at least one other airport that I know of that's going through this process. Yakima County has agreed to separate their relationship with the Yakima County Airport, I'm not sure what it's called, and turn over that ownership to the city of Yakima. And this is a rather unique situation in that this airport is actually a money maker. They had the situation where that airport was not making any money and didn't have financial stability. And so the county was continually being required to put money into that. Having said that, the issues that have been brought up, and I think it's clear, and Mr. Dawes made an excellent point. The representatives of the county or the city should be representing those entities on that board. And quite frankly, at times it seems that the board has been an independent factor in governing the airport and has not been responsive to what this board, and at least this board and maybe the city council, have felt that they were acting so autonomously that there was not a lot of consideration about what those two boards wanted to do. So those kinds of things happen, and it happens over time. Along with Commissioner Schulte, I agree that I don't see the impact. I don't see the financial impact to the county. If we go to the other parts of Lewis County, and I've done this, I've asked people, did you know that we own part of the airport? And they've quite simply said, what airport? And that's the kind of responses I get out in the community. So I'm not sure that the impact would be felt in the county, as Mr. Jensen has indicated. And I'm not even, I have a little bit of an issue and a little bit of a problem with trying to figure out how the governance will be done. And that's something that I think we'll have to see happen, and the city of Chehalis will have to work that out. If we pass this today, the finality is still not there, in that this agreement that has been signed by both the city and the county requires that both parties mutually agree upon this transformation to happen. We can't just get out of it and say, no, you take it over, city. The city also has to agree to that transfer. So this is, as been said, this is one step in the process. If we agree to this today, then the city has to agree to it, and then it can proceed.
I was going to comment also, in my research, I took a look at what happened when the city of Centralia decided to do a similar move. And many of the same reasons were stated in the minutes of those meetings. And the mayor, Tim Browning, talking about why they wanted to be out of the airport. And so it appears at this point, we're pretty much at the same juncture as the city of Centralia was several years ago.
With no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Close the hearing first.
So I will close the public hearing, and then I will call for a resolution or motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the staff recommendation to transfer, remove the county obligations with the Centralia Chehalis Airport, resolution number 13-502.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Resolution number 13502, to transfer ownership to the city of Chehalis. Call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Any further business?
Seeing no further business, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.